Hello and welcome to Brands Hatch for the penultimate round of the Toyota Tyre BRSCC Porsche Championship. So far, all three class leaders can't count themselves as winners just yet, so today expect some fantastic Porsche racing.
All to play for here at Brands Hatch, with pole position going to Jerry Taylor from Gary Lawrence, Ed Hayes and Gary Duckman joining the championship on row 2. Row 3, Jonathan Greensmith and Richard Avery, Nick Hull and Adam Croft on row 4, then Gary Goodwin and Mark McKenzie, Graham Hurd and John Cleland on row 5, and the race boxers completed by David Skellington. In the productions, it's Jason Flegg and Philip Grayson, followed by Michael Goodacre and Mark Marshall, and the 924 pole goes to Simon Hawksley. Andrew Hannington rejoins the championship, Carl Rossin and Nizar El Chamar on row 2, followed by David Jones and Philip Waters. Anthony Metvinsky next, with Paul Bravo and Hugh Pearce completing the grid. 26 cars on the grid here at Brands Hatch, with pole position going to guest driver Jerry Taylor, who we saw take 2 wins at Zolder, and Jerry makes a great start, so too does Gary Lawrence in blue. Gary Duckman's made a good start. Ed Hayes looking on his inside. Jonathan Greensmith is there as well. Greensmith up the inside of Duckman. Down behind them it's Richard Avery, then Nick Hull. But leading, it's Jerry Taylor looking for his 3rd win of the year. Guest driving, not interfering with championship points at all. So the Taylor Foundries car running well. What a superb sight this field makes as they come down Graham Hill Bend for the first time. You know, a lot of championships tend to ebb away at this time of year. Drivers dropping away as they're perhaps out of a shout at the championship, numbers dropping off, but this championship is attracting more drivers in at a crucial stage of the season. It augurs well for the final rounds of the championship and indeed the upcoming 2015 campaign. Richard Avery putting Duckman under pressure. Now Duckman, a new name as far as our televised coverage goes, but he was the 924 champion back in the day, and he's been racing Brit car, very accomplished sports car racer. Looks to the outside of the championship leader, Jonathan Greensmith, the championship leader, back in 4th place at the moment, chasing Ed Hayes. Hayes is joint 2nd on drop scores coming into the round. Greensmith leads on 269, Avery and Hayes on 250, Gary Lawrence 215, then Nick Hull and Adam Croft 5th and 6th in the championship standings. Jason Flegg leads the production table from Mark Marshall, Phil Grayson and Michael Goodacre. The 924's led by Simon Hawksley from Carl Rossin and David Jones. Nizar El Chamar in his debut season 4th in the standings. So much to cram into in these Porsche races, the Toyota Tyres BRSCC Porsche Championship, and as you can see, a very popular competition. As we look at Mark McKenzie, the Bessingham driver in the silver grey full race Boxster, Lawrence 2nd, followed by Ed Hayes. Here comes Gary Duckman with a sweep round the outside. He's past the championship leader. Goodness me, this augurs well for next year's competition. Gary Duckman, if he stays with us, is going to be a very welcome addition to the ranks, and let's hope that he does. So Ed Hayes chasing hard. Now remember that Jerry Taylor is a guest driver, he's not scoring championship points, so Gary Lawrence at the moment is the driver in line for the race win points. Now if you're thinking of coming and joining us and racing these wonderful cars, then you don't have to do all the rounds. We do have a drop score system, so if you have a little bit of bad luck, you can use the drop scores to counter that, or if you've got work commitments, as of course all these drivers do, and some of these drivers travel a very long way to come and race, then the drop score system sits in very well as we go in car with Mark McKenzie. That's Nick Hull, the chairman of the Porsche Racing Drivers Club, up ahead of us, heading up into Paddock, and then we go down into Paddock Hill Bend, and Nick Hull looks a little bit squirrely there. He's off in the dirt, he's off in the gravel. This is the in-car view from Mr. Chairman. Oh, such a shame. 5th in the championship, that could slide. We might see Adam Croft overtake him in the championship standings now. Is that going to cause a safety car? Always an issue here when a car goes into the gravel at Paddock Hill at Brands Hatch. For the safety of the driver concerned, and of course to prevent damage from other cars, the safety car could be deployed. There's Mark McKenzie. We had the onboard shot of Nick Hull departing the circuit. Nick, I'm sure he's a big fighter, he'll be back and ready for race number 2. This meeting, incidentally, organised by the BRSCC and the 2014 Porsche Festival. So lots of Porsche competition on circuit as we go to the 924 battle, headed by Simon Hawksley from Carl Rossin. Car number 55 is the returning Andrew Hannington. This is local track based in Whitstable. Carl Rossin looking to try and pass the race leader. Rossin's first win coming at Rockingham. And of course, with your first win comes that little bit of extra confidence, but it's Simon Hawksley leading at the moment. And this just graphically illustrates how competitive the 924s are. Still a lot of value to be had for racing in the 924 Championship. Rossin piling the pressure on. The man from Bedford, Simon Hawksley, based up in Aberdeen, 32 years of age, and leading this one at the moment. And, well, when you race the 924s, we've said it before, you can use the Toyo Tyres Porsche Championship as a ladder, coming in 924s, moving up maybe into the production boxes, then onto the full race cars. We've seen certainly more productions this year. They've been very successful. Loads of drivers moving on into the full race or full fat class, as John Clark, the championship coordinator, calls it. The numbers here, as I said, probably the best turnout we've had all season. 26 cars, very well supported championship, and Rossin looks for the lead. Simon Hawksley still there, but Carl Rossin looked at the inside, and Hawksley hangs on to it. Andrew Hannington still there in third position. Haven't seen Hannington since Croft took fourth and third place in class in his two races there. But back we go to the front runners. Gary Lawrence second, still followed by Gary Duckman, who's going to, if he stays where he is, pick up second place points on, I've got to say, his return to the championship, but his debut in the Boxster section of the championship. Ed Hayes and Jonathan Greensmith. Ed third, or joint second in the championship table, third in terms of the gross points scored before drop scores, and he will lose 16 points in the drop score scenario. Richard Avery loses a little bit more. He's been the consistent top scorer, and he's in the green and white car going through behind the championship leader in yellow, Jonathan Greensmith. So this, for the moment, fairly settled, but championship, as Rachel mentioned at the start of the programme, looks like it's going to go to the final three races of the season, which is exactly as we want. Mark McKenzie being chased down now by Graham Hurd in 99, another local driver, comes from Culverstone in Kent. And then we've got the Adam Croft having a look at the inside line there, but there in car number 4 is Jason Flegg, Dunstable-based driver and championship leader in the productions, up ahead of Mark Marshall. Then Adam Croft, followed by Michael Goodacre, the Warrington driver, 41 years of age, running third in class at the moment. Crofty puts a move on the production class car, very neatly done. Adam Croft then goes through, qualified 8th. He's a little bit further down than we would normally expect to see the man who is in 6th place in the championship. Had 3 DNFs this year, so won't drop any scores. Had fastest lap at Rockingham, which was great to see, and of course a podium finish at Rockingham too. Just underlines the competitive nature of the championship. There in car number 12 is John Cleland. Now your ears are not deceiving you, but it's not the John Cleland. This one is the 48 from Southampton. I'm going to correct myself. As far as the Porsche Championship goes, this is the John Cleland, and it's great to welcome him and newcomer David Skellington to the championship as well. David, as you see him in car number 11. So up front, Jerry Taylor, the guest driver, multi-race winner in the category. There's Gary Duckman from Croydon. So again, this will be his home circuit. A great debut for him so far. Qualified 4th and up into 3rd position, but it's Jerry Taylor who is leading the fastest lap, by the way, to Ed Hayes. Let's think about Ed Hayes, who's there in the light blue car. Fastest lap in the productions with Mark Marshall. Carl Rossin is the quickest driver in the 924s. Now, very shortly, the race leaders will start to catch the 924s. So they've got to be careful as they pick their way through. They don't interfere with the 924 battles that are going on. There are plenty of those happening here on the Indy Circuit at Brands Hatch today. As you look at Gary Duckman trying to hunt down Gary Lawrence. Duckman's best lap, 54.7. So Gary's best lap, he's actually quicker than the car in front. You can see he's now making a challenge, looks to the inside of the way into Druridge, back to the outside line to gain the optimum line around the hairpin. Ed Hayes is there behind him, then Jonathan Greensmith. These 4 Guys, I'm going to say these four, the regular front runners in the championship. Of course, Gary, the newcomer, is going to have a look as they go along Cooper straight into Surtees, too far back, goes back to the racing line. Well, this is for second place on track, but effectively the race winner's points, because, as mentioned, Jerry Taylor, the guest driver, away and down the road. The race fans that are here for the Porsche Festival, of course, only remember that Jerry Taylor was the race winner. They won't necessarily understand the ins and outs of guest cars and the like. But here comes Duckman again. This wide line, this is where he passed Jonathan Greensmith earlier on. Too far back, outside line, maybe he'll go for the look up the inside as they go down the hill. Too far back on Gary Lawrence. Now, as you can see, the race leaders getting up amongst the 924s. We expect this in the races. There's Jonathan Greensmith, still chasing Ed Hayes. Hayes and Avery tied on points, as we mentioned. Back to the race lead, and it's still for the 924s, still Simon Hawksley from Carl Rossin, Andrew Hannington. These three cars, as you can see, have been tied together all race long so far, and Carl Rossin looks like he's going to mount another challenge again. He's got to be mindful of Hannington. Rossin to the inside line, a little bit too far back, and Simon Hawksley carries the momentum through into paddock and retains the lead of the 924 class here on the Indy circuit. But Carl Rossin looks like he's going to come up and challenge again as they come into Druids. Rossin looking at the inside line and coming through into the lead of the 924s. Wonderful move. Welcome back to Brands Hatch for round 15 of the Toyo Tyres BRSCC Porsche Championship. The race leader by a good margin at the moment is Jerry Taylor. This is the scrap for second position. Gary Lawrence and first-time Boxster racer Gary Duckman, who looks to the outside line, might go for the cutback on the inside. The lead battle on the 924 still headed by Carl Rossin, who took the lead at Druids on the last turn. He's still there up ahead of Simon Hawksley and Andrew Hannington in third place. David Jones running a little way adrift of those cars in fourth position. Duckman now receiving the attention of Ed Hayes. Jonathan Greensmith right behind them. So we've got three of the front runners in the championship all together with a newcomer. Into Surtees, out of Surtees and into McLaren, and through Clearways goes the race leader, who's up amongst the traffic now. And that's John Cleland, who is coming up on in car number 12.
Going down the start finish.
So John sticks to the inside line, our newcomer to the Porsche Championship. Just to reiterate, not the John Cleland from touring cars, but this is the John Cleland, the Porsche Boxster John Cleland, and a very welcome to the championship he is. Hopefully we'll get to see the other newcomer, David Skellington, at some stage during the race as well. Taylor up amongst the 924s and closing up on the lead trio of the 924s now. Andrew Hannington, the first car to be passed. So Hannington sees the race leader coming through. Simon Hawksley in second place is going to be next, and of course these 924s haven't just got the race leader lapping them, we've got all the four cars squabbling over second place coming up on them soon as well. So the marshals are going to have to do some vigorous blue flag waving. Probably seen quite a lot of that already, but Simon Hawksley still in second. Andrew Hannington chasing him hard in the 55 car. There's a nice bit of vigorous blue flag waving from the marshals, who have to work hard. They're keeping an eye on what's going on track as well for their reports. Look at that, Lawrence to the outside, Gary Duckman to the inside of Simon Hawksley. Ed Hayes is trying to go through on the inside of Andrew Hannington to put a lap on him, but it's still Jerry Taylor out front. Next is Carl Rossin, who's the lead 924. Oh, big sideways moment there for Simon Hawksley, who comes back on track. Andrew Hannington nearly clattered with him and gets into a spin. Hannington back round onto the grass. Let's hope he hasn't stalled the 55 car, otherwise he's going to lose third position in class. Well, the race leaders now through and past the lead 924s. Gary Lawrence, the Leighton Buzzard driver, in second position. Lawrence has had a few podia so far this year, had one at Alton Park in race one, podium in his debut for the championship, which Gary Duckman's going to emulate today in race one at Silverstone. And still there is Andrew Hannington, who very clearly has got problems. Now, whether he'll be able to get fired up again or not, I don't know. It's going to bring David Jones into third position in the 924 class, with Anthony Mekvinsky in fourth, Andrew Hannington fifth. We've lost Hugh Peart earlier on in the race, car number 36. So through Surtees into McLaren. This the battle for second, which has raged all race long so far. Gary Duckman challenging hard. As we said, former 924 champion in the Lodge Sports days. Really good to see him in the Boxsters. I think it's going to be a very welcome addition to the grid. Goes across the line. There's Ed Hayes. Joint second in the championship with Richard Avery. He's going to consolidate that second position with the points scored here. Richard Avery still running well. Sixth position on the road. If you look to the back of shot, you'll see a flash of green and white. There he is, followed by Carl Rossin, the 924 leader. And we've still got the likes of Mark McKenzie, Adam Croft, Gary Goodwin and Graham Hurd all racing in the top class, the Class A Boxsters, the racing spec ones. Haven't spoken too much about the production class in this race. Jason Flegg, the championship leader, is still out front in those. Gary Duckman coming under pressure from Ed Hayes as they come out of Clearways and onto Clark Curve and towards the Brabham Straight. The race leader makes a pass now. That's the 55 car of Andrew Hannington, who's rejoined the race.
Okay, keeping the same position.
And he's lapped again, so Hannington's going to find himself 3 laps now down on the leaders, but will at least get some race mileage under his belt. Championship-wise, probably not a concern. We mentioned this is Andrew's second meeting of the season, having raced at Croft earlier on in the year. So Jerry Taylor still there. Gary Lawrence, really good drive from Gary in second position. Looks like he's fended off Gary Duckman for the moment. The 5 cars with a little bit of spacing between them all. So in that stage of the race where we're past the middle of the race, coming up towards the closing stages. Now remember, the top 3 cars in class will have to carry ballast for race 2. Now that is going to be interesting to see how Jerry Taylor handles it as he comes across the line. Gary Lawrence has been in that situation before. He had a podium on his debut with us at Silverstone, the start of the year, podium at Zolder in race 2, and a podium at Alton Park in race 1. So he'll have some ballast, as will Gary Duckman. They've all read the regs, they all understand the pitfalls of having a decent result in race number 1. Of course, they all want to win. They all want to win with the ballast as well in race 2. Ed Hayes getting a little bit closer, is he, at the moment, to Gary Duckman? That remains to be seen. Coming through Graham Hill, really good to see. Nothing on the timing screen in terms of track limits here at Brands Hatch. They've got sensors in the curbs which will pick up the cameras, which will take pictures of the cars that go over it. And so much hoo-ha over recent seasons about track limits, but these guys just getting on with the job. As I say, no messages at all from race control in this one to say that anybody is exceeding those. Jerry Taylor still there, his best lap, 54.787 back on lap 6, an average of just under 80 miles an hour. Race leaders going through and past the number 11 car. It's David Skellington, incidentally, in car number 11, newcomer to the championship. As you mentioned, the 2 newcomers, David Skellington and John Cleland. David, 46 years of age, John Cleland, 48. So you're never too old to join this championship. It's got a very good age range. And we've got obviously some younger drivers in the championship as well. As Gary Lawrence is back under pressure from Gary Duckman. Ed Hayes still 4th. See a really decent crowd enjoying the Porsche Festival here in some sunshine at Brands Hatch. Jerry Taylor still out front. Gary Lawrence is under pressure again, isn't he, from Gary Duckman. The Duckman goes very wide on the exit of Paddock, comes up Halewards, but again Lawrence has gained the momentum. This has been a good race between these two. Good race from Ed Hayes as well, who's coming back into the mix. Jonathan Greensmith's there, ready to pick up some extra points if the opportunity is going to afford itself in this late stage of the race. We're wondering whether Gary Duckman's going to be able to take second. Wide line here along Cooper Straight. into Surtees. The extra momentum might come into play when he goes on the straight. Made that card, remember, on Jonathan Greensmith earlier on in the race. As starting his last lap now is Jerry Taylor. So here is Jerry Taylor onto the last lap, 1.2 miles to go around the Brands Hatch Indy Circuit. The battle for second is still on. Gary Duckman goes high wide into Paddock Hill Bend and challenging hard, but he still can't get the job done because Gary Lawrence is equal to him and hanging on to second. Quick look up the inside for Duckman, back to the outside line for Druids. Ed Hayes is in the mix as well. Duckman won't be driving on his mirrors, he's not one to do that. And to be fair, he's got a couple of legs over Ed Hayes. He's got the championship leader, Jonathan Greensmith, right behind him. Cooper straight for the last time. And it's still Gary Lawrence who's going to pick up maximum points in this one. Jerry Taylor, though, the race leader, still up amongst the back marker traffic. Taylor surely is going to take the win. Gary Lawrence has done a lot of work to maintain second position so far. Gary Duckman might be too far behind to have a run to the flag. Let's focus on the leader. Jerry Taylor comes across the line. There's the checker. Duckman does come out offline but has to content himself with third place. Gary Lawrence getting a well-earned second position. Ed Hayes in fourth from Jonathan Greensmith. There's Anthony McVinsky, fourth in the 924s, chasing the red and gold car of David Jones, who takes another 924 podium. But it's Jerry Taylor that takes his third win of the season here at Brands Hatch. Gary Lawrence is second, Gary Duckman third from Ed Hayes, Jonathan Greensmith fifth, and Richard Avery in sixth place. Fastest lap to Ed Hayes. Carl Rossin takes the production win from Simon Hawksley. David Jones is in third. Fastest lap 2 winner Carl Rossin. And in the productions, it was a win for Jason Flegg from Michael Goodacre, with fastest lap going to Mark Marshall.
It's very important, the last few races of the season. It's all about points at the moment. Did you feel that pressure in that race?
I was probably putting more pressure on Gary. So, I mean, Ed was behind me. I got a pretty bad start, actually, so I dropped down to fifth at the start. Made my way back up to third, and you know, I was probably putting more pressure on Gary in front than I was getting from behind. So, yeah, I wasn't too worried about that.
Are you very happy, though, that you got third?
Yeah, very happy with third.
Well, look, well done. Congratulations. Good luck in the next race.
Cool. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Well, congratulations. You're getting very used to being on the podium now, aren't you?
Well, it's the second time in second meeting. That was really good, though. We've been quite strong all weekend, and yeah, the race was good. Couldn't quite match Jerry. This man was keeping me honest from behind, so I had to make myself pretty wide. But no, really good race, very hot. Just like to say thanks to my sponsors, Dodden Vorton and Country Properties. Without them, I wouldn't be racing. And TF Motorsport, who put a great car under me. So hopefully a little bit better for next two.
You kept at the front consistently. Nearer the end, the last few laps, you did have to fight a little bit more. But was it quite an easy race for you?
No, it's not easy. It kind of looks it when you're out the front there, and you want these guys, and you shouldn't look in the mirror, but occasionally you do take a look in the mirror, and you want these guys to be fighting, which means that your gap's going to grow. But my tyres were going off, their tyres were going off, and it's just a case of balancing it, really. It's a nice buffer. It meant I could take a little bit of a breather, but you still got to keep your concentration going.